Hello, everyone. I will be talking about DACA and Dreamers today. I do want you to know that whenever I refer to Dreamers, I am referring to DACA recipients as well. So I can be talking about either or, but I'm talking about the same person or the same students. So DACA is the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Now let's go to the table of contents so that we can understand what we will be reviewing today. First, I will be talking about the who are undocumented immigrants. Second, I will be talking about the DREAM Act and how the DREAM Act influenced the signing of DACA. DACA was signed June 15th of 2012 under the administration of Barack Obama. And third, we will be talking about who is considered a dreamer, right? Like who's eligible to be a dreamer, basically. Fourth, we will be talking about the difficulties of DACA. So we will be talking about the difficulties of DACA started in 2017, to be exact, September 5th, 2017, under the administration of former President Trump. And we will talk about that later on my slides. And then lastly, we will be talking about where is DACA today under the administration of Joe Biden. So let's jump right into it. So when we talk about undocumented immigrants, a lot of our documentation, like formal documentation, refers them as illegal alien. We kind of want to be mindful of how they define immigrants, because an illegal alien basically is saying it's that the illegal that a person is illegal, right? And what the immigrant community wants to address is that it's an action that's being illegal, not them being illegal as a person. A little controversial, but I'm not going to get too into it. So that leads me to explaining what undocumented individuals are. So undocumented individuals are people who don't have the proper documentation to stay permanently in the US. So there's two ways. One would be a person coming into the US without permission, without a legal way, like a visa. And another way would be that person came with a visa and they stayed more than the time allowed. So let me give you an example. Let's say someone has a 6-month visa, and after the 6 months expired, they decide to stay in the US. Now they become an undocumented individual. So that leads us to defining who undocumented students are. So undocumented students are any students that don't hold citizenship, residency, any type of visa. We do know that there are student visas, but in this case, these students do not hold any type of documentation for the country they are trying to live in, which is the US in this case. An important thing to understand about undocumented students is that the US gives them the opportunity to stay, not to stay, but to have an education in the US. Like if they want to go to a high school or a college, they can still go to high school and college. It becomes a little bit difficult once they get to college, because we all know how expensive college is, and they would not be able to apply to financial aid like someone that's documented in this country could. So that's the difficulties that they have. Now, let's talk about the DREAM Act. So the DREAM Act is an act that was first introduced to the Senate in 2001, with all the benefits that DACA, that we're going to review about DACA. The DREAM Act was exactly those benefits, wanted to give these recipients that were eligible these benefits with a pathway to citizenship. Now, DACA does not provide a pathway to citizenship. So unfortunately, the DREAM Act went to vote in 2010, and unfortunately, it was not approved by a couple of votes. So that was 2010. Then in 2012, President Barack Obama was able to sign the executive order for the approval of DACA. However, the main difference between the DREAM Act and DACA is that the DREAM Act wanted these benefits plus a pathway to citizenship. With DACA, DACA recipients, or some of the benefits of DACA recipients, are only for 2 years. So, for example, what are some of the benefits that DACA recipients have? Number one, they're deferred from deportation. Number two, they are able to get a permit to work in this country by getting a social security. And then another one is that they're able to get an ID or a license. This is in some states, not in every state, but in some states they are able to get a license so that they can drive. And we know how important it is for someone to be able to drive, to go to work and go to school. Unfortunately, some DACA students, I can imagine driving without a license before, the approval of DACA. So, who's eligible for DACA? So, or who are dreamers? Who's eligible to be a dreamer? So, for you to be eligible to be a dreamer, you must have come to the U.S. before your 16th birthday. So, up to the age of 15 is when you were here in the U.S. You were under the age of 31 when DACA was signed, which was in 2012. And you have continuously resided in the United States since June 15, 2007 to the present time. When we talk about the present time, we're talking about June 15, 2012. That's when DACA was signed. The student was physically present in the U.S. on June 15, 2012. They are currently enrolled in school. This is very important because not everyone's eligible for DACA. The main reason DACA was created was to help students, right? To only help students. So you have to be enrolled either in a high school, a college, or any higher education, and you cannot have a felony. So these students cannot have a felony. This is just a short list out of a complete list that because of timing, I will not review all of them. Now, I think this image is a very nice image. Where we can see that not only, politics or the administration of Barack Obama was in favor of DACA recipients, but also colleges and high schools. Like, for example, in this picture, we see Harvard stands with DACA. Pretty sure they knew one or a couple of DACA recipients that were actually in this school. These students are trying to get education even in these elite schools and, other schools as well. But let's talk about the difficulties of DACA. So some of the difficulties of DACA were under the administration of Trump. On September 5th, 2017, the Trump administration announced the phase out of the DACA program. So initial requests for deferred action under DACA are no longer being accepted. Renewal requests from current DACA beneficiaries will be accepted until October 5th, 2017. So unfortunately, in 2017, DACA students, if their 2 years expired, and it was over October 5th, they were not able to request a renewal for their application, which before they could. So where does DACA stand today? So DACA today, there's 2 days that are very important, and I wanted to show this image of former President Barack Obama and Vice President at that time, Joe Biden, because I think it's very important to understand that President Joe Biden was part of the signing of DACA back in 2012 with the administration of Barack Obama. So he is pro DACA, and he's trying to do everything that he can to try to preserve DACA. So let's see what happened. So on January 20th, 2021, that's when President Biden came into power. He issued a memorandum directing the Secretary of Homeland Security, in consultation with the Attorney General, to take appropriate action to preserve DACA. Now, a couple of months later, July 16th of the same year, a federal judge in Texas ruled that DACA is illegal and blocked new applicants. The ruling allows for immigrants currently protected by the program to keep their status while the case goes through the appeals process. So while this is going through an appeal process, these students are protected. However, nothing is guaranteed until we get a new ruling. So basically, DACA students right now are up in the air. They really don't know what's going on. But what we do know is that the administration of Biden is trying to fight to preserve DACA. Another important information that I can give you about DACA recipients is that about 45% of DACA recipients are going for a bachelor's degree or higher. Also, about 80% of DACA students have a license. Another important data that was done in 2017 is that about 91% of DACA students work, and after they received DACA, they were able to go from a minimum salary wage of about $10 to going up to $17 per hour, which we all know that this helps for the economy of the US. And yeah, so they're a big part of our economy, and they're also adding to the United States just like all of us do. So yeah, I mean, that's all I have for you. I have my references right here, and yeah, I hope that you guys understand, and it's very important to know that DACA students didn't come here they came here when they were children. They were younger than 15 years old, and they didn't have the ability to say, hey, don't take me to somewhere where I am going to be undocumented, right? So it's very important as educators to understand that DACA students are undocumented not because of their will, but because someone else took a decision to bring them into this country without proper documentation, and basically having them suffer for the decision that that parent or adult made for them when they were younger. So I think it's very important to keep this in mind, so that we don't hold any grudges with these students, or just think that they willingly did something that was not supposed to be done. Okay, guys, so I hope that you guys learned a little more about DACA students, or dreamers as we call them, and I'll see you next class. Bye-bye.